Hey everyone, welcome to Sifted HQ, episode 11. I'm really bummed because I had shot an awesome open and close for this episode with the sunset, and I get back and the files were corrupted. So instead, you get me in my home office. We have something really cool in this week's episode. We're going to have a segment that is recurring not only for every episode, but they connect together. I don't want to spoil too much. Check it out.
Hey Sifters, welcome back to Make It, where we make things in front of you for your viewing pleasure. And today's a special kind of Make It. It's actually going to be a multi-part series where we are actually going to build a PC together. I don't have one right now, and I currently would like to build one. I've been using this MacBook Pro since 2012, my sophomore year of college. And so I want to build a PC. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but I haven't had the time to do so. And now that I'm here settled in Los Angeles, I thought now would be the perfect time. And it's a perfect time for us to do it together and for you guys to help me along the way since I'm very new to this process. So here's how it's gonna work. I have price point, I have things I would like the PC to do, and I've already done my own research and I've already come up with a spec of a PC that I thought would match what I was trying to do. But I really would like your feedback. Whether you don't think the processor is good enough, or you think the graphics card's not good enough, or you think the whole thing is crap and want to throw it all away and recommend an entirely new PC with different specs, I am all ears. This is the part of the process. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finalize those picks, let you know what they are, and then we're gonna build the PC, and then you can see the performance once it's all built. So my price range, it's actually gonna be $1,000 PC. I do have some wiggle room, so I am willing to go a little bit above $1,000 if I need to, depending on the parts, and if you can convince me that it's worth spending a little bit more, but I will not go anything above $1,200. That's just a guarantee. Like, you won't get me past that number automatically. Now, the things I want to do with this PC, obviously I want to be able to game. I want to be able to game current things and future stuff. I also want to be able to do my video editing and photo editing through that PC. I can do it on my laptop, but I really would like to have that handle a lot of the workload. Then the final thing is I would like to stream on this PC, and so I want it to be efficient with that as well. Now that you know my price, now that you know what I want out of this PC, take a look at my specs and let me know what you think. My first thing I had to decide on was a processor, and so I decided to go with the AMD Ryzen 7 2700X with 3.7 GHz and 8 cores of processing. I had to pick between Intel and AMD, and through the reviewers I looked at in my research, most people were saying over the last few years, Ryzen has definitely improved its processing tech while at the same time offering great value for the price you're paying. And also, most gaming rigs have recommended Ryzen as that processor. So for those reasons, I decided to go with the Ryzen. Now, I could choose between the 5 and the 7, and the only reason why I went with the 7 was also those reviewers were letting me know that if I was going to do video editing or photo editing, you would probably want more cores of processing. And so that's why I decided to go with the 7 and put a little more money in that section. For my motherboard, I decided to go with the Asus Prime X470 Pro. The only reason why I went with this was price, and there's only a few motherboards that match with my Ryzen 7 processor. And the RGB was a bonus. Now it's time for the RAM. For the RAM, I decided to go with the TMT Force Delta RGB 16 gigs, which includes two 8 gigs of DDR4 memory. I went with this one because of price, worked with the specs I was going for, and finally, I wanted at least 16 gigs of RAM. For my storage, I decided to tackle it two ways. I went one with an SSD drive to handle my major applications, so I went with the Western Digital Blue 500 gigs, and then I decided to do a 1 terabyte hard drive to store all my files and my games through Steam, and I decided to do the Western Digital as well. Let's take a look at my graphics card that I chose. To be honest, I don't really know very much about graphics cards. This was probably the hardest thing to select, but I was looking at a lot of reviewers, a lot of builds, and this is what I figured out to do based off price point and the already specs I have on this PC. So I decided to go with the MSI GeForce RTX 2060 with 6 gigabytes. According to PC Part Picker, my estimated wattage was going to be around 375, so I decided to go with a 450 bronze certified power supply just in case. Final thing we have to look at is my case, and I decided to go with the NZXT H510 mid-tower case. I only went with this one because of price, but also I'm a person that likes that clean, modern aesthetic look, and this is what the kind of case it gave to me. Now, I did like a blue version that they offered, but unfortunately it was out of stock. Now we put it all together and it's going to give us a total of $1,109.90. Just slightly over that $1,000 budget, but still within my price range. Now is your chance. Take a look. Let me know what you think on these parts. Do you like some of them? Do you don't like any of them? Do you want me to make a different kind of PC? Let me know in the comments, and then in next week's Make It, I will let you know the final parts for my PC.
Hey there, welcome to the 6 biggest stories in gaming for the week ending May 5th, 2020. I'm Shane Satterfield for SIFTD News, and this is The Big 6. It would not be an episode of The Big 6 if we did not at least mention Generation 9 consoles at least once. This week, the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, appeared on CNBC to discuss the impact of coronavirus on the games industry. Spencer stated that while he doesn't foresee a hardware delay for Xbox Series X, he has resigned himself that some games will ultimately be delayed. Spencer also stated that the games industry is primed to do quite well during these uncertain times. We've gone from E3 2020 being canceled to there now being more events in June than normal. In the past week, IGN, Games Radar, and Jeff Keighley have all announced events that are hoping to fill the void. IGN and Games Radar are producing shows more similar to what you'd expect. Keighley's Summer Games Fest is more like a calendar of special events that lead up to Gamescom 2020. No matter the event, it looks like June 2020 is going to be just as great for video games as any other year. Following up on a story from last week regarding The Last of Us Part 2 leaks, Sony and Naughty Dog have determined that the leaks came from an outside source. Citing sources, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier also stated that Naughty Dog's internal network was hacked after an exploit from Uncharted 4 was discovered. So, it appears hackers are responsible for The Last of Us Part 2 leaks. We'll leave it up to you to decide if Naughty Dog is responsible for the negative fan response. We waited a long time for the first episode of the Final Fantasy VII remake, and now we've discovered we're going to have to wait almost as long for episode 2. Director Tetsuya Nomura announced this week that Square Enix has just begun the initial planning for the second episode, which means its release is a long ways off and will happen somewhere in the middle of Generation 9. The good news is that Nomura also stated that future episodes will be shorter than the first. Hopefully that cuts some time off of the development cycle so that we get it sooner rather than later. In other Xbox news, Microsoft has been the target of a class action lawsuit. A man in New York State has filed the claim, stating that the Elite controller he purchased suffered from analog stick drift, and the same issue surfaced just a couple months later after he bought a replacement. The man claims that Microsoft is aware of the problem due to online comments from consumers. If you've experienced analog stick drift on an Xbox controller, you cannot sign up for the class action suit just yet, but we'll let you know when you can. It's the beginning of the month, which means it's time to collect all those free games from PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live. If you're a subscriber to either service, there's a handful of freebies available right now. On Xbox One, you get V-Rally 4 and Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. On Xbox 360, you'll receive Sensible World of Soccer and Overlord. On PlayStation 4, there are just 2 games, including City Skyline and Farming Simulator 19. It can be hard to remember to grab all the games every month, so consider this your official warning. That's it for the Big 6, the 6 biggest news stories in gaming for the week ending May 5th, 2020. I'm Shane Satterfield for SIFTD News, and I'll see you next week.
Noobs is here to bring you the most fascinating games that were debuted this week. And that's no easy task because 15 games were announced in the last 7 days. Some of the best sports games aren't realistic. NFL Blitz turns football on its head, and WWE 2K Battlegrounds is looking to do the same for pro wrestling. With exaggerated wrestlers, environments, and moves, this new arcade take on the WWE is designed to provide a completely new gaming experience. Accessibility is the key. but there's also supposed to be depth for those who dig. Step into the squared circle on Switch this fall with other platforms to follow. If there's one existing franchise that's perfect for VR, it's Mirror's Edge. Stride is about as close as it gets. This VR parkour action game has you jumping and climbing all over Metropolis X, hoping to wipe out some thugs. The developers have also addressed motion sickness, so you won't need a barf bag to play. Be the Spider-Man on both Vive and Rift this summer. New genres are hard to come by these days, but BPM, bullets per minute, is unlike anything else. It's like an FPS mixed with Guitar Hero, as you must shoot, reload, jump, and dodge to the beat. It's a thinking man's first-person shooter, so it won't appeal to everyone. But if you're the type who's always looking for something new, feel free to drop some bills when it drops the beat on PC in August. It's also coming to consoles before the end of the year. No one likes having spiders in their home, which is why Kill It With Fire has so much appeal. The concept is simple. You have spiders in your house and you must do whatever it takes to kill them. Throw a shuriken at them, shoot them with a gun, burn them with a makeshift flamethrower. We won't judge. Prove that 2 legs are better than 8 on PC in late summer. There's a demo available right now. Ubisoft is the worst when it comes to game leaks. It's hard to remember many games it's announced that haven't been leaked beforehand. The same holds true for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We've known about the Viking setting for over a year now and Ubisoft just confirmed it. It picks up directly at the end of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and features both male and female protagonists. Grow your own settlement to gain notoriety while taking part in large battles with England to claim more of its lands. The RPG systems have been expanded and dual-wielding combat is emphasized, so it appears the traditional Assassin's Creed model has been left behind for good. It's coming this holiday season for all platforms including next-gen. Once again, the Switch is left out in the cold.
Hey everyone, welcome to Closet Raiders, where I dig through my closets and find some of the coolest stuff I've collected in my 20 years in the gaming industry. Now, as you can see, I'm at home. Welcome to my home. The reason I'm here is because what I'm showing off today, in order to adequately show it off, I needed to be here. And you're gonna see why in just a minute. So, I've talked a lot about preview code working in the industry. I talked about the PSP, how we got silvers for that. There's a lot of consoles actually where you got silvers, but the N64 is different because it used cartridges. So they couldn't just send these discs that they could cheaply burn at a factory and send them out to the journalists. They had to do something else. And so I'm going to share with you today exactly how we did preview coverage for the Nintendo 64. And to do that, I have something very special and very rare to show you guys today. And this is an N64 rewritable ROM. So as you can see, it's a gigantic cartridge. It's about double the size of a normal N64 cartridge. And these are basically ROMs that the developers could write over and over and over again. And they also play in retail N64 units. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how I ended up with this. I really don't. I don't know which outlet I was working at when I got it. I don't know what's on it. Obviously, there's a big Rockstar sticker on the front of it. So I have some ideas that maybe it's either Body Harvest, although I don't remember getting review code for that, or Space Station Silicon Valley. And that was back when Rockstar was DMA Design. Actually, this was like right during kind of the transition when they went from DMA Design to Rockstar Games. So I'm not 100% sure what is on this ROM. The other thing is there is a label on the back that says Earthworm Jim 3D Final Reviewable. And that is written on Rockstar stationery or on a Rockstar sticker. So I'm pretty confident that this is some Rockstar DMA design game for the N64. I'm not 100% sure what. We're going to check it out though. Before we do that though, I want to talk a little bit about these N64 ROMs. So Nintendo, when you were going to review a first party game from Nintendo, Super Mario 64, anything like that, Banjo-Kazooie, they would physically show up at the office with one of these ROMs plugged into an N64, and then there was a steel case all around the whole thing, so you could not take the ROM out of the N64. And then it was also very hard to just take the N64 as well. Now, the other thing about this was You could not take these caged ROMs home. You had to play them in the office while a Nintendo representative sat there watching you play the game. Think about that. Someone from Nintendo watching you play one of Nintendo's games for review. Yes, it was very awkward. It also amounted to a lot of really late nights when I worked at GameSpot as far as staying in the office, because if I couldn't take it home, I needed to finish the game by embargo, I was just staying in the office until I got everything done I needed to. And that Nintendo person would hang out there the entire time. So anyway, that's the history of the N64 ROM. I Googled these. I can't find any images even of these on the internet. I'm sure they're out there. I Googled 3 different terms and could not even find an image of one of these. So there aren't a ton of these circulating out there. So now I'm completely flummoxed as to what is on this ROM, and I'm going to plug it into my Nintendo 64, and we're going to find out. All right, here it is, the moment of truth. What could be on this ROM? What is it? What? Star Wars Episode 1 Battle for Naboo. What? It's the sequel to Rogue Squadron. Why in a million years would this ROM be on a Rockstar branded cart? It makes no sense. My only guess, maybe, is that a PR agency had this ROM and they were giving it to developers to burn their code to so we could preview or review their games. Probably also explains why I have this and nobody ever asked for it back. Maybe they were doing stuff with this ROM that they weren't supposed to be doing. But anyway, there you go. Factor 5's Battle for Naboo, the follow-up to Rogue Squadron. Obviously, Factor 5's great music, sound system. You can hear the audio in this. Does not sound like most N64 games. This game, I think, reviewed pretty freaking well back in the day. Rogue Squadron obviously did great. Let's take a quick look at it here. I do have a memory card in here, but it looks like, yeah, this ROM has on-cart memory to save. It doesn't need a pack. Interesting. So there you go. Hidden on this ROM, Star Wars Episode 1, Battle for Naboo. So you guys may be wondering, Shane, how did you capture footage of the N64? In fact, you may be wondering, how do you stream retro console games at all? Because I don't even have a TV that I can plug my N64 into, and that's why I had to do this segment here. What I have is this thing right here. It is called a Dazzle, and it's basically made to copy your old VHS tapes to digital. So if you have these old tapes and you want to digitize them, you don't want to lose the footage, you use this thing. But what most people have used it for is to capture and stream retro gameplay footage. Now, these things are cheap. They're called like a Dazzle DVD recorder or something like that. You can find them on eBay for like $20-25. The new ones are like $50 or $60. The new ones actually capture in HD as well. This was an older one. It only captures in SD. But you can get them really cheap. And then once you have one, you can use OBS or any other streaming program like that, and it will actually pick up on this device and allow you to pull that video into your stream. So if you're looking for a cheap way to stream retro games, this is your ticket.
Turned Up Tuesday is here to help you sift through the games, albums, movies, and TV shows launching this week to find out what's right for you. May is all about ports and remasters, so if you missed a game the first time around, this is your chance. Spirit of the North is one of those relaxing games like Journey, where you fiddle with it as much as you play it. You control a fox in the Icelandic wilderness as it discovers the meaning of a lost ancient Nordic civilization. Without any kind of dialogue, the orchestral soundtrack, visuals, and platforming puzzles drive this force of nature. Become the guardian of the Northern Lights with this former PS4 exclusive when it launches Thursday for PC and Switch. At this point, we've given up waiting for a new Silent Hill game, but Someday You'll Return is a solid alternative. This psychological horror game out today for PC has you playing as a father desperately searching for his daughter in a Czech forest. It's a story-driven game, but you'll still be crafting, creating potions, dealing with a karmic system, interacting with the environment, and more, all while dealing with your fears and your past. If you don't have a gaming PC, it's scheduled for PS4 and Xbox One later this year. The action-heavy John Wick movie franchise is perfect for many gaming genres. John Wick Hex makes its console debut on PS4 today after a run on PC. It's like XCOM but with the timing elements of the films. Take control of the Baba Yaga himself and do what he does best: clear rooms of enemies. Weapon types, ammo scarcity, positioning, and more help it blur the line between strategy and action game. Switch and Xbox One versions are coming at a later date. The games are slow, and the movies and TV shows are even worse. Sounds like a good time to buy a new album. If you were a fan of grunge in the 90s, you're probably familiar with bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, but there was a lesser known group called Screaming Trees that was every bit as good. The band was a little darker than its contemporaries, and its lead singer Mark Lanegan is releasing a solo album called Straight Songs of Sorrow on Friday. It's accompanied by his memoir Sing Backwards and Weep that chronicles his time in Seattle's legendary scene. Lots of tween girls love artists like Taylor Swift and her bubblegum junior high pop. But what about the girls who paint their fingernails black? Enter Hayley Williams, the darker version of that saccharine genre. She looks the part, but her songs dive into topics a little more serious than adolescent breakups. Her debut album, Petals of Armor, is worth picking up for that sister headed down the wrong musical path. Our pick of the week is the new album from the downbeat specialist, I Break Horses. If you're a fan of bands like Portishead or Beach House, you know roughly what to expect from this Swedish group. The new album, Warnings, runs the gambit from sleazy trip-hop to hazy uplifting electronic anthems. We've already got it on repeat, so we highly recommend it. New film and TV content is quickly becoming scarce, but we've uncovered a couple picks worth looking into. Spaceship Earth is a documentary that follows a 1991 experiment where 8 individuals spent 2 years inside a self-engineered replica of Earth's ecosystem. Once they're quarantined, this social and scientific experiment goes awry with ecological issues and cult mentalities. It has a lot of relevance of what's going on right now, so check it out Friday streaming on Hulu. You can also rent or purchase it on your favorite service. Netflix has too many stand-up specials to keep track of, but you can't pass up a classic comedian like Jerry Seinfeld. In his smartly titled special, 23 Hours to Kill, he does what he does best. He cracks jokes with no generational boundaries. We all could use a good clean laugh right now, so pencil in Jerry immediately as it launches today.
Alright, that's it for episode 11 of Sifted HQ. We're really relying on you guys to help Mitch with his PC build. We're going to take your feedback on the parts, any pro tips you have on building it. He'll take all that into account, and you'll see that over the next 3 episodes of HQ. So thanks for any help that you can give. We'll see you next week.